Hey everyone, welcome back to Wealth Up. Let's dive into my September spending, budget review, and net worth. Let's see how my financial journey is progressing. Despite the hurricane expenses, yes, I'm still dealing with the hurricane in July. However, I managed to squeeze in a trip this month. While it wasn't extravagant, it was a much needed getaway. I also booked 2 trips for October, which I'm excited about, but will need to factor into my upcoming budget. September brought another dental bill, which was expected and necessary. On the positive side, I finally received the insurance reimbursement for the hurricane expenses, which provided some financial relief. I took advantage of a zero-interest loan offered through my employer. I will be using these funds to cover the cost of getting a new fence at my house. My insurance did not cover this because all of the repairs did not meet the deductible. If you're interested in a video breaking this down, let me know in the comments. Let's see how all of these factors have impacted my net worth. I'm curious to see if the travel expenses, unexpected bills, and insurance reimbursement have made a significant impact. Okay, let's jump into the spreadsheet. We'll start at the top with my paychecks. This month, I received 2 paychecks of $2,513, and I also received $122 of dividends. This is rolled into my paycheck because they are dividends coming from stock that I'll be receiving from my employer. I also received the $10,000 loan that I mentioned earlier. And I also had $5,089 that rolled over from August. This brings the total income for the month of September to $20,239. Keep in mind that the $10,000 loan I will have to pay back. Thankfully, my employer is offering this at 0% interest. But I'll have to create a sinking fund to save this up so that I can repay it. Now let's go into my investments and savings. My automated investments continue to be paused. I added $2,000 into my emergency fund and $500 into my tax and insurance sinking fund. Now let's look at my monthly expenses in the fixed payments category. I paid $1,100 for my mortgage, $85 in electricity, $30 in gas, $60 in water, $47 for internet, and $200 in student loans. In the monthly expenses, varying category, we'll go into a little bit more detail. I do want to mention that since last month, I've set new targets for this spending category, raising these up. In part due to inflation, I'm raising these up to $500 for fun money, $500 in home expenses, $300 in self-care, and $1,000 in travel funds. But let's go into the details on my September spend. In fun money, I spent $375 for dinner and hanging out with friends, $4 in subscriptions, and $54 in shopping, bringing my total expense to $434. In home expenses, I spent $231 at Aldi and $126 at H-E-B. I did not have any expenses in the house category and spent $63 on gas. In self-care, I spent $90 on massages, $11 for my gym membership, and $2,200 at the dentist. This brings the total expense in self-care to $2,301. In travel, I did have 1 trip early in the month and I spent $427 on the trip. I also booked 2 trips and spent $950 in reservations. These include some Airbnbs where I will be refunded part of this money, but this won't be reflected until October. I also had credit card fees to pay for this month. This totaled $645. Now this may seem very high, and it is, but the points I'm getting from these credit cards allows me to book flights without paying. In essence, this is a prepayment for future flights that I will take. If you remember last month, I booked flights for my September trip and they didn't cost me anything. This was in part from the credit card points that I had. Adding all of these up brings my total spend in travel to $2,022. Now in the hurricane category, I did receive refunds to cover the expenses that I've had. This totaled $5,721. And I had $533.46 in repairs. This means that after covering these costs, I had $5,187 left over. This is to help cover the expenses I've already paid for. In addition, there is a roofing repair that's been made that I still need to pay. The funds will come out of this remaining money. After the new spending targets of $500, both my fun money and home expenses category spending came under. Self-care is significantly above, but this is primarily coming from the dentist expense. I will end up pulling this out of my emergency fund. I've been putting extra money in this category throughout the year, so we should be okay. In the travel category, I did exceed the target as well, but I've been saving over the last few months, adding into my sinking fund, so I'll pull money from there. After adding everything up, I have $16,225 left to spend. Keep in mind, of this $10,000 I will have to repay, and I will be using this money to pay for the fence repair. Now let's go into the spending plan tab and update it. Okay, I've now updated the spending plan for the month of September. As I mentioned, fun money and home expenses, I will be raising these up to $500. That will be reflected in next month's spending plan. The other change that is to come is that in October, the employee stock purchase plan that I am participating in will come to an end, and I will get access to that stock. Right now, I expect it to be around $17,000, but it will depend on the market situation when this is paid out. The other thing that will change is that my income will be updated to reflect those changes. So that additional money going into purchasing the stock will not be pulled out. I'm not sure if that will come into play for only my second paycheck. However, my automated investments will come back after my pay goes back to normal. The other thing to note is in the hurricane expenses category. Let's do some quick math here and add how much I received from insurance funds. So from insurance, I received $8,471. Now let's see how much I've spent. $6,083. So right now my refunds are higher than my expenses. However, as I mentioned, I still have an additional repair to pay for that will come out of this money. After it's all said and done, these numbers will be much closer in value. Now let's go over to my net worth. For those of you new to the channel, net worth is used to measure your financial health. It is calculated by subtracting the value of your liabilities from your assets. Liabilities are any debts that you have. And for me, they are mortgages and loans. I have a primary residence and a rental property. Both of the loans are added here. And I also have student loans. Assets are anything you can sell of value. And for me, they are the 2 properties, my car, investments, and cash. For the month of September, my mortgages totaled $310,900. My student loans totaled $9,950. This brings the total value of my liabilities to $320,850. Now let's look at my assets. The value of my houses decreased slightly to $488,800. My car is valued at $11,700. My investments went up this month to $577,000. Even though the market has had its ups and downs and the beginning of the month was a bit slow, it has turned around. In cash now, I have $34,500. This big change is in part from the loan that I received. Again, I will have to repay this. Adding all of these up brings the total value of my assets to $1,112,000. Now, to calculate my net worth, we'll subtract the value of my liabilities from my assets. This brings my net worth as of September 2024 to $791,150. We're very close to reaching $800,000. And looking at the difference between January and now, the difference is substantial. A lot of it coming from market improvements. If you notice, the investments were at $469,000 at the beginning of the year, and now are at $577,000. This is more than $100,000 increase. This is in part from the market and in part from additional investments that I've made. There's also been a slight increase in the value of my properties and the boost of $10,000 into my cash fund. However, this will go away in the next coming months once I have the fence repaired. Despite the ups and downs, I'm overall pleased with my financial progress this month. Remember, life throws curveballs, but with careful planning and budgeting, we can navigate these challenges and stay on track towards our financial goals. Share your financial experiences and tips in the comments below. Let's build a supportive community and learn from each other. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more personal finance content. Thanks for staying until the end, and I'll see you in the next one.